So the reigning national champ is not alone. There's some big names in this lineup to find the final two qualifiers. 24 cars have qualified from night one out of the 4 groups. The top 6 going automatically through as Joe Barron screams down the inside. The 96 getting into the concrete. Kerry Hill as Lance Ashton takes a shot at Tony Fabish down the other end of the track. Well, this is just erupted, and it's the repercharge.
We've already seen Fareham go from grid 11 up to 4th in the first corner. Ashton taking out Fabish, and there we go now Dale McKenzie putting Malcolm Natai into the wall.
So Fareham back there in the 4th position. Matt Bolton there tied up with, I think, Alan Levine. There's Dale Avers, he's a long way back as well. So some big casualties, more than likely, because only 2 are to go through. Down the inside goes McKenzie. Barr gets straight onto his back bumper. Fairham's going to slip up the inside as McKenzie runs the wall off the exit. New race leader Joe Fairham through into the front of the winning Z, then gets turned around by Graham Barr. No love lost there. Graham Barr using the bumper and moved the former national champ out of the way, and that is pretty much game over for Joe Fairham.
We certainly can't stress enough the intensity of having to finish in the top 2. Fareham said he was going to put his head down and go for it. He did. It led for about 20 metres.
He's coming back on track now, but he's a lap down. Dale McKenzie leads from Malcolm Natai. The first 2 positions are the crucial ones. There's Dale Avers going through. He's a lap down now. Graham Barr in the 3rd position in the Blastways 32P. He's been aggressive in this repercharge.
One of the favourites going into the meeting too, so it'll be a little bit of a surprise. If he doesn't qualify, he needs one more spot from where he sits now.
Things just starting to settle down after a frenetic opening couple of laps. McKenzie getting away now from Malcolm Natai. Natai just needs to finish 2nd, and he will qualify. And that's what he's going to do, because there's the checkered flag. McKenzie will qualify, as will Malcolm Natai. Some big names missing out. The likes of Ross Ashby, Campbell McManaway, Joe Farron, Jack Myers, Graham Barr, Dale Avers, Kerry Humphrey. There's a few. So, Dale McKenzie and Malcolm Natai will go through to the final. So it's all down to the final 3 heats. The New Zealand Home Loans, New Zealand Superstock champs for 2013. Nelson's Nick Fowler off the pole, Simon Joplin from 2, with Chad Ace and Jared Gray off the first 2 rows. And typically with New Zealand Superstock titles, the first 2 heats tend to be a lot tamer than the final. Try saying that to Scott Myers, as he's already using the side rails to the inside of Kyle Fraser.
I think those in-car shots are showing us what looks tame sitting in the grandstand isn't tame when you're sitting in the driver's seat.
500 horsepower, 1,500 kilo, weapons of mass destruction. Nick Fowler out in front. Shane Penn with some work to do in this first heat. Started back off grid number 18, but he's already passed Scott Hewson and Craig Boot.
Yeah, Penn just reclaiming their position, starting from grid 18, and that one Craig Boot from 24. So who made some good early moves, but got a bit of a push on there and dropped back a bit.
Scott Myers to the inside of Scott Joblin. Joblin into the back of Ian Clayworth. Moves him aside. Thomas Stanaway just up ahead in the Cat 87M. Bryce Steiner already in the wars. He's got wing damage to the left side of the 118R.
You can see some of those onboard shots, just how congested the racetrack looks ahead. 26 cars on this very small track at Nelson.
Quarter mile, 400 metres long. It is a superb Superstock track. It's one of the tighter tracks in the country, but a little bit like Palmerston North, you can't really hide at this place.
No, there's some good banking too, so they carry a fair bit of pace all the way round. But as we said before, it's very, very congested when you put the top 26 Superstocks in the country out here at once.
Fastest lap of the race so far, Dale McKenzie in the 2nd position on lap 5, a 15.83 second lap. Back on board with Scott Joplin, battling there with Scotty Hewson. Scott Myers to his right side, all using the bumpers. Brett Nichols in the 48 just up ahead. So this battle just inside the top 10. And we're looking for the big movers already in this first heat. Scott Myers back there as they go around Ian Clayworth. Houston gets up into the concrete, loses 2 spots. Asher Rees goes by in the 126P. It's the track now just starting to slick up. Shane Malsop to the inside of Craig Boot, then gets turned around by Peter Rees.
Might both have a P on the car, but it shows if one of these guys gets slightly crossed up in front of the other, they're just going to get knocked to one side.
More so if you're Peter Rees. He's got Scott Joblin and Jared Gray running with him. Joblin and Rees, Palmerston North Panthers teammates, on board now with the Rees tank. Running just outside the top 6, last lap run for Nick Fowler. He started up front. The local's going to win the first heat. Nick Fowler from Nelson wins heat number 1 of the New Zealand Home Loans New Zealand Superstock title. Fowler from Mackenzie for a Nelson 1-2. Simon Joblin, former national champion, third, ahead of another former national champ, Malcolm Nartai. Peter Bankston. Shane Harwood back off the inside of row number 2 with Scott Myers to his outside. Scott Joblin outside of row number 3. Again, it's busy down through the first turn as they work their way down the back straight. Simon Joblin gets turned around with Jason Smith. Now, Joblin was third in the first heat, so he's already delayed as Shane Penn muscles his way past Asher Rees into the lead.
Now, as you mentioned earlier, Jamie, these championships are all about your front grid, your middle grid and your back grid. You've got to do lots of passing. Heat 1, we had Craig Boot moved up 18 spots in a 26-car field, so a massive move. But Brett Nichols as well, moving up 16, Scott Joblin 11, so they're the 3 to keep an eye on at the moment.
On board with former 3-time national champ Craig Boot, the screaming Chev, powering the gorge off the corners. Shane Harwood making some moves. He muscles his way to the inside of Shane Penn and through to lead, and Thomas Stanaway followed him through.
Thomas Stanaway, one of the young guns out of Nelson, just started racing this car a couple of seasons ago, and locals tipping him as one to watch in this championship.
Battles just outside the top 6, Scott Joblin and Craig Boot. Boot looking for his 4th New Zealand Superstock title. Asher Rees just in behind Jared Gray. Wayne Hemme, 9th place finish in the first heat. Another one of the many former national champions in this lineup. There's another change for the lead. Shane Penn's got back in front of Shane Harwood. These two have done a lot of teams racing against each other. Penn for the Panthers and Harwood for the Nelson Tigers.
And they come up against each other a lot as well, so they know exactly how good each other is, what sort of lines they run, and they're having a fantastic battle for the lead.
Well, the cars will be totally differently set up from night number 1 with a lot more drive in the racetrack. Shane Harwood trying to get the power down. Penn still leads. Thomas Stanaway's cleared Scott Hewson. Hewson's still back in that 4th position now. And just in behind these cars is Scott Joblin. So Scott Joblin will be up into the 5th position. Further down the queue, the likes of Shane Melser, Peter Rees. Simon Joblin trying to get back up amongst the leaders after that delay earlier on. So Scott Joblin in the 5th position.
He started from grid 6 too, Jamie, so not a lot of progress being made through the field so far. The track is pretty dry and dusty in the second heat.
Certainly up inside the top 10. You can see that line just off the pole as Harwood gets into the side of Penn, just starting to take rubber. This is elbows up warfare for the lead in heat number 2 of the New Zealand Superstock champs in Nelson.
Harwood had a very bad first heat, went from grid 16, back to 24th. So he really needs some big points in this one to stay in contention.
And Shane Penn's been shuffled back here. He's lost 3 or 4 positions out of that move from Harwood. Hewson now up into 2nd. Stanaway is 3rd. Another impressive run here from the youngster.
Those little moves can cost you so much too. We know so many of these championships are only decided by a point or 2. We just saw Shane Penn there lose 4 spots just in that little tiny tussle with Shane Harwood.
On board with Craig Boot. He got up over the curb and he's just lost the 6th position to Jared Gray. And Jared Gray starting pretty deep in this lineup, as did Wayne Hemme, both inside the top 10 well and truly.
So once again, often these championship winning drives can be your rear grid start if you can make a big amount of passes, and those ones that can really count when it's all tallied up at the end of the night.
Well, Jared Gray's come from grid 17th up into the 6th position at the moment as Shane Harwood continues to lead. Wayne Hemme up inside the top 10 from grid 22. Again, home track knowledge, so important. We've seen that over so many years, but we know the 3rd and final heat is just going to become one big teams race. Shane Harwood working that low line out of the final corner. He will take the checkered flag in heat number 2 from Thomas Stanaway. Scott Hewson in 3rd. They'll be followed by Scott Joblin, Shane Penn, Jared Gray, one of the big movers, Craig Boot and Wayne Hemme, another big mover in heat number 2. So it is going to be one big teams race with 3 cars from Rotorua, 2 from Christchurch and single cars from Hawke's Bay and Stratford. Who will the alliances be with? We'll have to wait and see over the next 15 laps. Brett Nichols leads them away from the pole. Craig Boot already into the 3rd position, and you know this is going to erupt.
The first big hit we see, Rotorua, Bryce Steiner onto Craig Boot. You know Boot's going to be a target.
Boot into the side of Jason Smith as he tries to recover. Smith goes around, Boot into the concrete. He must have copped some damage. He gets back up and running though. So obviously there's some attention already for Craig Boot. Here comes Peter Rees. He copped a shot from Steiner after that contact. He slams the former national champ into the concrete. And there's another tank in the mix. Is that Scott Myers helping out Peter Rees? No, it's Blair Cunningham down the inside. He was actually helping Craig Boot there. Scott Joblin facing the wrong direction. This has just gone nuts as Bryce Steiner takes another shot at Craig Boot. On board with Peter Rees, he takes another hit on Craig Boot. And that might finish it off. It split the left rear tyre. Boot damage to the left front as well. He's going to come down off the wall, across the track, right into the path of his teammate Nick Fowler. One of the favourites. He was the top point scorer going into this final race. Well, here's the replay. Peter Rees, this is the final one that got Boot. The only thing that didn't hit Craig Boot was the water truck, Barry.
Certainly was, and just about got Boot over, but the damage to the car's looking terminal. But yeah, he was 3rd on points. He's taken out the points leader, his own teammate at the same time.
Well, after such an amazing start, we think Brett Nichols is leading out in front because most of the rest of the field have been delayed. Craig Boot's still out there, but he's got all sorts of dramas and cops yet another hit. Well, a target well and truly of the 7N machine. Ian Clayworth, he's in block mode. In fact, he's in front of one of his Nelson club mates. Shane Penn working his way through.
Well, certainly the Palmerston North boys knew Boot was the one they had to get. He was only 2 points off the lead, but like 10, 15, 20 points ahead on the grid of most of the closest opposition. Looks like they've got the 7. Just saw him on the infield here, and there goes Scott Joblin getting turned around again.
Not for the first time. Jared Gray getting him out of the way. Ian Clayworth gets spun onto the infield. Here's a replay. This is Joblin. So Nick Fowler trying to come back. He was the points leader going into this 3rd and final heat. There is Brett Nichols. We believe Brett Nichols is the race leader and Shane Penn is just in behind him. So Nick Fowler nearly a lap down as they try and delay Thomas Stanaway. Red lights are on. The cars come to a stop and it's a rollover, and that looks like the yellow and blue of Ian Clayworth, the 74N. And for a moment here, we can finally sit back and take a breath.
No, it's certainly been action right from the drop of the green, hasn't it? Clayworth, that red light, and it is Ian Clayworth. I think the red wheels for a bit of a giveaway as well.
So back to the restart. On board with Shane Harwood. Smoke around the racetrack. Scott Myers struggling with damage to the right front. He's trying to guide Bryce Steiner into the concrete. On board with Malcolm Natai.
Natai's still running pretty well at the moment. It's come through the repercharge.
Shane Harwood gets spun around. Nick Fowler delayed as well. So Natai's up inside the top 4 or 5. Shane Penn certainly towards the front.
Yeah, Penn started from grid 17, so he's made a lot of passes, but the way it's been going though, the track's getting cleared and we just see Stanaway getting put into the wall, and then behind that Scott Joblin got turned round yet again.
He was tussling there with Brett Nichols, so there's Natai. Nick Fowler a lap down. Back on board with Natai. And I think we're not the only ones trying to figure out the leader. There's Blair Cunningham and Peter Rees, the battle of the tanks. Rees cops a monster shot there. Was that McKenzie on the way past? McKenzie's up inside the top 4 or 5. We know that.
Yeah, certainly he's come through as well with Shane Penn right back from the 9th row of the grid. Those two appear to keep an eye on now.
So Phil Ogle, we know he's also up there as well. He started off the front row as we look at another replay. That was McKenzie that took a shot there at Peter Rees.
He's clearing his own path.
So there is Shane Penn. And he might be in front here. Dale McKenzie second. Malcolm Nartai third. It's Malcolm Nartai threading his way through. Peter Rees let him alone. Here's another replay. Nick Fowler, again, not for the first time going around, and it was Peter Rees that